Brielle Saunders, a young, talented, and confident woman from Columbus, Georgia, gained recognition in her local community for her impressive skills in freestyle rap battles. Freestyle rap battles are a competition where participants improvise lyrics on the spot, showcasing their lyrical creativity and quick wit. Brielle stood out in predominantly male space, earning respect and admiration for her raw talent, sharp rhymes, and fearless attitude. On the night of the incident, Brielle was at a party on Garden Drive, a known gathering spot for local rappers and freestylers. The event was lively, with multiple rap battles taking place, and the crowd was energized. Brielle, known for her confidence and lyrical flow, entered the battle with the intent to compete, not to cause any trouble. She was there to showcase her skills and enjoy the challenge. During the rap battle, Brielle faced off against some of the best freestyle rappers in the area, displaying her mastery of the art form. Her quick wit and ability to dominate the competition drew the attention of Robert Johnson, Katori Glover, and Joey Guerin, 3 men in the crowd. While the battle was initially friendly, Brielle's success in the competition struck a nerve with these 3 men. Their reaction was a mixture of admiration and frustration. Brielle's victory threatened their egos, especially since they were not accustomed to being outdone by a woman in a space typically dominated by men. Instead of accepting her skill and talent, the men, particularly Johnson, felt their masculinity was challenged and took it as a personal affront. The loss to a woman in this high-stakes environment ignited a desire for retaliation. In this moment, Brielle's success, fueled by years of honing her craft and developing her confidence, would unknowingly set the stage for the brutal attack that would follow. The combination of their bruised egos and the need to assert control over the situation led to an escalating series of events that would spiral into an act of violence. This initial setup of the rap battle highlights Brielle's determination and fearlessness, as well as the toxic masculinity of the 3 men who couldn't tolerate losing to a woman. The story delves into the backgrounds of the 3 men who would later become responsible for the heinous crime: Robert Johnson, Katori Glover, and Joey Guerin. Their histories and personalities reveal a disturbing pattern of anger, violence, and entitlement, which would ultimately contribute to their actions on the night they attacked Brielle. Robert Johnson. Robert was 25 years old at the time of the incident, and his background painted a troubling picture. His criminal history dated back to his youth. As a 13-year-old, he had been convicted of forcing an 8-year-old girl to perform unspeakable acts, though he claimed the victim had followed him willingly. This early encounter with the law offered a chilling glimpse into his twisted sense of entitlement and disregard for others' boundaries. As an adult, Johnson's temper and need for control were evident. He thrived on intimidation and used both his physical presence and sharp tongue to manipulate and dominate others around him. Those who knew him described him as someone who sought power and control in all situations, and he showed little remorse for his past actions. His behavior and history highlighted his dangerous entitlement and willingness to use violence to assert dominance. Katori Glover. Katori was 26 years old and, unlike Johnson, was quieter and more reserved, but no less dangerous. On the surface, he appeared calm, but beneath this exterior was a man capable of erupting without warning. Glover's criminal record included petty theft and assault, but it was his impulsiveness that set him apart. His tendency to act on impulse, without considering the consequences, made him a volatile and unpredictable individual. Glover's readiness to follow through on violent impulses made him a dangerous addition to the group, and his actions in the crime underscored his willingness to commit acts of violence without hesitation. Joey Guerin. At 22 years old, Joey was the youngest of the trio and was often seen as a follower. He had a strong need for validation, and in his quest to prove himself, he aligned himself with the stronger personalities of Johnson and Glover. Guerin was driven by insecurity, which made him susceptible to peer pressure. His desperate desire to fit in and gain approval from the other 2 men pushed him to participate in the horrific crime. Despite his status as the youngest, Guerin's recklessness and eagerness to prove his worth made him a crucial player in escalating the situation and contributing to the violence. Together, these 3 men formed a volatile and dangerous group. Johnson, the ringleader, set the tone with his manipulative and domineering personality. Glover acted as the enforcer, executing the violent actions without hesitation, and Guerin, the youngest, added to the group's instability due to his need for acceptance and validation. Their shared sense of entitlement and domination contributed to their inability to handle Brielle's victory in the rap battle. Her success was not seen as a challenge to their egos that could be taken in stride. Instead, they viewed it as a personal insult that required retribution. Their desire to assert control over Brielle, a woman who had bested them in a public competition, ultimately led them down the path of violence, setting the stage for the brutal crime that followed. The incident that would alter Brielle Saunders' life forever occurred after she participated in a freestyle rap battle at a house on Garden Drive, a known gathering spot for local rappers in Columbus, Georgia. Brielle, a confident and skilled young woman, had become a local star due to her impressive rap skills. The night she was attacked, she was at the party house, excited to showcase her talent once more. Rap battle in the atmosphere. The night began in a light-hearted and energetic atmosphere. The house was filled with a buzz of music, laughter, and the quick-fire cadence of freestyle rap. Brielle was in her element, confidently taking on some of the best freestyle rappers in the room. Her sharp wit and lyrical flow drew the crowd in, and she had become well known for her ability to dominate rap battles, even in a space that was predominantly male. As she battled, Brielle captivated the crowd with her quick thinking and the cleverness of her lines. This made her not just a respected competitor, but a local star in the rap scene. The three men's growing frustration. Among the spectators were Robert Johnson, Katori Glover, and Joey Guerin, who were initially drawn to Brielle's energy and talent. As the battle continued, the men grew increasingly fascinated by Brielle's performance. However, it was soon clear that their admiration was mixed with a growing frustration and resentment. Their frustration stemmed from their egos being bruised by a woman's dominance in a field that was typically dominated by men. To them, her victory in the rap battle was not just a loss in a friendly competition, but a personal challenge to their masculinity and egos. Instead of accepting the defeat, they began to feel threatened by her confidence and talent. What initially seemed like a friendly exchange of raps soon turned darker. After the battle, the group of four, including Brielle, moved from the crowded house to Brielle's car, continuing their freestyle rapping in a more private space. While the mood remained light and the rap battle continued, there was a shift in the atmosphere that Brielle didn't immediately notice. Johnson and Glover began to exchange glances, and their demeanor changed, growing more tense and hostile. At this point, the situation took an ominous turn. Brielle, unaware of what was coming, was caught off guard when Katori Glover suddenly pulled out a gun. This unexpected shift from friendly competition to violent threat was a precursor to what would unfold next. The shift from competition to violence. Johnson followed Glover's lead and pulled out his own weapon, pointing it directly at Brielle. The playful nature of the rap battle vanished, and the men began to order Brielle to drive, creating an environment of intimidation and fear. Brielle was now faced with a life-threatening situation, as she was outnumbered and trapped in the car with three armed men. Despite the shock and terror, she complied with their orders, not knowing where they were taking her or what would happen next. This moment marks the beginning of Brielle's nightmare, as the men, unable to handle her success in the rap battle, transformed from competitors to violent predators. The shift in their behavior, from admiration to resentment and anger, would escalate into a brutal assault, and Brielle's strength would be tested in ways that would later become a part of her remarkable survival story. After the escalation of tension at the house on Garden Drive, Brielle Saunders' fate took a terrifying turn as the three men, Robert Johnson, Katori Glover, and Joey Guerin, made their violent intentions clear. Brielle, previously confident and in control during the rap battle, was now thrust into a nightmarish situation. Kidnapping in the drive to an isolated location. With weapons drawn and tension rising, the three men ordered Brielle to drive. At this point, she was left with little choice but to comply, realizing the gravity of the situation. Her car became a trap, with the men on the passenger side and in the back seat, all of them armed and increasingly hostile. The drive was nerve-wracking and tense. Brielle's mind raced, trying to think of ways to escape or outsmart her captors. However, the men were relentless in their commands, making it clear that any resistance would lead to immediate violence. They drove for what seemed like hours, heading toward a more isolated and desolate area outside of town, far away from any potential help or witnesses. The further they went, the more helpless Brielle felt, realizing that any attempt to escape or call for help would be met with a deadly response from the armed men, the violent attack. Eventually, the group arrived at a secluded area, far from the watchful eyes of others. It was here that the true nature of the men's intentions became clear. Brielle, terrified and vulnerable, was now at the mercy of three men who had been brewing with resentment over her success in the rap battle. The men, led by Katori Glover, began to assault her physically, escalating their behavior from intimidation to sexual violence. In a horrifying sequence, Brielle was subjected to a brutal attack by the three men. The assault was not only physical but psychological, as the men seemed to take pleasure in her suffering. During the attack, they taunted her, mocking her earlier confidence and seeming to relish in the cruelty of their actions. The men's rage seemed to be fueled not only by their initial frustration with being outdone by a woman in the rap battle, but by their sense of entitlement and control over her. Desperate fight for survival. As the assault continued, Brielle's survival instincts kicked in. Despite the overwhelming fear and trauma, she managed to fight back against her attackers, using every ounce of strength and willpower she had. Her resistance was fueled by a desire to survive, and she struggled to escape from their hold. During the attack, Brielle did everything she could to protect herself and resist the men's advances. She fought physically, but the overwhelming strength of her attackers made it seem like an impossible battle. Despite this, she refused to give in to their cruelty, using whatever means available to her in the desperate hope of surviving. The escape. It was only after what seemed like an eternity that Brielle saw a sliver of hope. In the midst of the chaos and brutality, she managed to escape their grasp. Whether through sheer luck, determination, or a combination of both, Brielle found an opportunity to break free from the men's clutches. In a moment of pure survival instinct, she ran, not knowing where she was or how far she would have to go, but knowing that she had to get away from them. Adrenaline and fear propelled her forward, and though wounded and traumatized, she knew that she had to keep moving to survive. The aftermath. Once Brielle was able to escape, she managed to find help and contacted law enforcement, detailing the horrific events that had unfolded that night. Though physically scarred by the brutal assault, Brielle's courage in the face of such unimaginable violence allowed her to survive and fight back in the face of what seemed like certain death. The men, however, did not go unpunished. Brielle's testimony and bravery were pivotal in ensuring their eventual capture and the bringing of charges against them. The incident left lasting scars on Brielle, not just physically but emotionally, but she would go on to reclaim her life and find strength in her survival. This was a pivotal moment in Brielle's life, where her talent and confidence in the rap battle were overshadowed by a horrifying experience that would forever change her. Despite the trauma and brutal assault, Brielle's fight for survival and her eventual escape showed her resilience and strength. After Brielle Saunders miraculously escaped from the clutches of her attackers, the situation took a dramatic turn as the investigation began. Despite her physical and emotional trauma, Brielle's courage and strength became the central focus of the case, helping to bring the perpetrators to justice. Reporting the incident. In the aftermath of her escape, Brielle, exhausted and traumatized, managed to seek help. She immediately contacted the authorities, detailing the terrifying events that had unfolded. The law enforcement officers were horrified by the brutal nature of the attack and began investigating the situation immediately. Brielle was given medical attention for the physical injuries she sustained, and she also underwent counseling to address the psychological trauma. Though shaken, Brielle remained composed when speaking to investigators, offering crucial details about her attackers. The investigation. The police launched a comprehensive investigation into the assault. Detectives worked quickly to track down the suspects, starting with Katori Glover, the leader of the group, followed by Robert Johnson and Joey Guerin. Given the severity of the crime, the authorities were determined to bring the perpetrators to justice as swiftly as possible. Evidence was gathered from the scene where the attack took place, including forensic evidence such as DNA samples, clothing, and any potential traces left by the assailants. The isolated location where the assault occurred was thoroughly examined by the police, who found enough evidence to connect the men to the crime. Suspects interrogation. The three men were arrested and brought in for questioning. During the interrogations, detectives focused on piecing together the sequence of events that led to Brielle's abduction and assault. Initially, The suspects denied their involvement in the crime, but as the evidence mounted, each of them began to crack under pressure. The physical evidence found at the scene, coupled with Brielle's detailed testimony, left them with little room to deny their actions. Katori Glover, who had been the most vocal during the assault, was the first to break. He admitted to the planning of the attack and his role in the violence. Robert Johnson and Joey Guerin eventually followed suit, each confessing to their involvement in the horrific crime. Charges and court proceedings. The men were formally charged with a variety of crimes, including kidnapping, sexual assault, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted murder. The severity of the charges reflected the brutal nature of the crime and the grave harm done to Brielle. As the case moved forward to trial, the prosecution relied heavily on Brielle's testimony. Her courage in speaking out was instrumental in ensuring the case went forward and that the justice system will hold the men accountable for their actions. Medical experts were brought in to testify to the extent of Brielle's injuries, both physical and emotional, which further emphasized the brutality of the attack. Forensic evidence, including DNA, corroborated Brielle's account, further ensuring conviction of the three men. The trial and verdict. During the trial, the defense attorneys attempted to paint Brielle as an unreliable witness, claiming her memory of the events might have been clouded by trauma. However, Brielle stood firm, recounting the events in vivid detail and showing remarkable resilience in the face of such a challenging situation. The prosecution made a strong case, and the jury was quick to deliberate. After weeks of emotional testimony and evidence presentation, the jury found all three men guilty of the charges brought against them. Sentencing. The sentencing hearing was a tense moment in the courtroom. The judge emphasized the brutality of the crime and the lasting impact it would have on Brielle's life. He sentenced Katori Glover, Robert Johnson, and Joey Guerin to lengthy prison terms, ensuring that they would be held accountable for their horrific actions. The men were given decades-long sentences, with the possibility of parole after serving a significant portion of their time. The verdict sent a strong message that such violent acts would not be tolerated, and that survivors like Brielle would be supported in their pursuit of justice. Brielle's recovery and advocacy. After the trial, Brielle began her long journey toward healing, both physically and emotionally. The trauma of the assault would never completely leave her, but with the support of family, friends, and professional counseling, she began to reclaim her life. Brielle also became an advocate for survivors of sexual violence, speaking out about her experience in an effort to raise awareness and help others find their voice. She spoke publicly about her ordeal, urging other survivors to come forward and seek help, showing that it was possible to survive such violence and heal. She worked alongside various charities and organizations that focus on supporting victims of sexual assault and abuse. Brielle used her platform to educate others on the importance of consent, respect, and justice. The impact on the community. Brielle's case had a profound impact on the community. It sparked conversations about the culture of misogyny and the treatment of women in various industries, including rap music, where battles and rivalries sometimes escalated into unhealthy competition. The incident also prompted law enforcement to strengthen their protocols in handling cases of sexual violence and assault, ensuring that survivors were treated with respect and given the resources they needed to rebuild their lives. In the aftermath of this harrowing experience, Brielle not only sought personal healing, but also helped bring attention to issues surrounding sexual violence, justice, and survival. Despite the darkness of the crime, she emerged as a beacon of strength and resilience, showing the world that even in the face of unimaginable horror, it is possible to survive, seek justice, and ultimately help others in the process. After the brutal attack on Brielle Saunders, she began the challenging process of healing, while the perpetrators faced the full weight of the justice system. This bullet point highlights Brielle's journey of recovery, the court proceedings that followed, and the impact of her bravery and the case on the community. Brielle's recovery and mental health struggles. Brielle's escape from the attack marked only the beginning of her struggle. The immediate aftermath was filled with both physical and emotional challenges. She was treated for physical injuries, which included bruises and abrasions, signs of the violence she had endured. The most profound scars, however, were emotional. Brielle experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, which manifested in nightmares, flashbacks, and an overwhelming sense of fear. She struggled with feelings of shame and self-blame, common reactions among survivors of sexual violence. Despite these challenges, Brielle committed to her recovery and sought therapy and support from professionals, family, and friends. The road to healing was long, but she was determined to reclaim her life. Brielle's story also shed light on the importance of addressing mental health after experiencing violence, emphasizing the need for specialized counseling and support systems for survivors of such traumatic events. The legal process, arrests, charges, and trials. The legal system began to play its part once Brielle bravely reported the attack to the authorities. Law enforcement quickly identified Katori Glover, Robert Johnson, and Joey Guerin as the perpetrators of the violent crime, and all three were arrested shortly thereafter. The charges filed against them included rape, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and attempted murder, with each man facing significant prison time if convicted. The severity of the charges reflected the nature of the crime and the extent of Brielle's trauma. The case moved swiftly through the legal system. The prosecution built a strong case, relying on Brielle's detailed testimony, physical evidence, and forensic reports that tied the men to the scene of the crime. This allowed for a quick indictment and set the stage for the trial. Brielle's courage in testifying against her attackers was vital to the case. Many survivors of sexual violence are unable or unwilling to speak out, but Brielle's strength and resolve were central to the case moving forward. The role of the media. The case quickly gained media attention, which helped bring public awareness to the issue of sexual violence and the importance of speaking out. Brielle's story became a symbol of resilience and survival. The media focused not just on the crime, but on the strength of the survivor and her ongoing battle for justice. Journalists and advocates used the high-profile nature of the case to discuss broader societal issues, including the culture of violence against women and the importance of consent in all relationships, particularly in high-pressure or competitive environments like rap battles. As the case progressed, Brielle became more involved in the public sphere, participating in interviews and advocacy work, showing that speaking out could lead to justice and empowerment. Community support and advocacy. Brielle's community rallied behind her during her recovery, providing a strong network of support. Local organizations that advocate for victims of sexual violence stepped in, offering counseling, legal assistance, and resources for healing. Brielle was able to turn her personal trauma into a force for change. She participated in campaigns and public speaking events, encouraging others to come forward if they have been victims of similar crimes, and raising awareness about the resources available for survivors. The case sparked discussions about toxic masculinity in certain cultural contexts, such as rap music, where themes of violence, dominance, and objectification of women are sometimes normalized. Brielle's case led to a broader dialogue about the need for men to take responsibility for their actions and for society to support survivors, rather than blame them. Legal outcome and sentencing. After a lengthy trial, the three men were found guilty of all charges brought against them. The evidence was overwhelming, and their confessions during the interrogation played a critical role in securing conviction. Katori Glover, Robert Johnson, and Joey Guerin each received harsh sentences, with decades-long prison terms for their crimes. The judge emphasized that the brutality of the crime, especially the lasting impact on Brielle's life, warranted such severe punishment. The sentencing served as a message to the community and to potential perpetrators. Violence against women would not be tolerated, and those who commit such acts will face severe consequences. Brielle's continued advocacy. After the trial and sentencing, Brielle's life was forever changed, but she continued to fight for justice. She became involved in several nonprofit organizations that focus on supporting victims of sexual violence. Through these organizations, Brielle worked on raising awareness, providing resources to other survivors, and promoting prevention programs aimed at educating people about consent, respect, and healthy relationships. Her experience also led her to become a vocal advocate for policy changes related to sexual violence and the treatment of survivors within the justice system. She worked with lawmakers to push for stronger laws to protect women and hold perpetrators accountable. Impact on society. Brielle's case had a profound impact on how sexual violence cases were handled in her community. The case brought to light several systemic issues, including the need for better support services for survivors, improved legal practices, and educational programs to change the cultural attitudes that enable such violence. Additionally, Brielle's personal journey highlighted the power of survivors' voices in the justice system and in society at large. Her story proved that speaking out and seeking justice could lead to accountability, not only for the perpetrators, but also for the broader cultural issues surrounding violence and misogyny. In conclusion, Brielle Saunders' case became a symbol of resilience and empowerment for survivors of sexual violence. Through her journey of recovery and her commitment to advocating for other survivors, she made a lasting impact on both her community and the broader fight for justice and equality.